Hey everybody, it is Adam, the Super Para Prince, and this will be my 17th dressing tutorial, and the topic I'm going to speak about is I'm going to explain how I ended up in this position. So basically it's going to be like my backstory. So while I finish my dressing routine, I will explain to you how I ended up like this. Well, I was born and raised in North Carolina. I lived there until I was 21, and I've always loved to fish. And my dream was to become a commercial fisherman one day up here in Alaska. And I wanted to end up becoming the captain of my own crew one day. And I moved here in November of 2006. And just because I did not know anybody, I had no way of finding a fishing position. So basically, I just started working doing the thing that I've done my whole entire life, which was waiting tables at a restaurant. And I was a waiter up here until the very beginning of 2008. That's when I got my first break. There was a help wanted ad in the newspaper, and they needed a couple of deckhands for cod jigging. And so I called the number, and a lady answered, and I told her about the little article that I read in the classifieds, and that I was very serious and interested, and that I would love the opportunity to be able to fish. And she said that it was actually her husband who had put that in the paper, and that he was actually on his way to Anchorage that day when I was speaking to his wife about the position. And she said that he would be in Anchorage late that night, and she would relay the message, and he would call me the next day. So I didn't hold my breath, because this was not the first time that I have called and asked about a fishing job. But I don't know if it was my lucky day, but the next day around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, I received a phone call, and it was from the gentleman who his wife had said she would, relate the message. And so he asked me if I had any kind of experience, and I told him, I said, I'm familiar with boats. I can fish all day long. I said, I just am not familiar exactly with cod jigging or salmon seining or working with crab pots and everything. But if I see it once, I can do it by myself from then. So he asked me again if I was serious about it, and I told him, I said, I am serious as a heart attack. I said, this is my dream, that I have been going after for years. And he told me, he was just like, okay, well, if you're serious, give me 10 minutes and I'll call you back. So I was just like, all right. And about 7 minutes later, he called back and he said, get a pen and paper. I need you to write your confirmation number down for a flight because you're coming out here in 1 week. And when I got that news, my heart was just pounding out of my chest. I was so pumped and excited. Like this, this was my dream. And God, I was getting livid. And the next Tuesday, my dad and myself, we got to the airport, and I didn't have to go through security or anything like that, because up here, when you go to the small villages, you have the bush pilots that take you. First off, most likely you're going to start off on a little 20-seater jet plane to make it out to King Salmon. And there you switch to a little Cessna, either up to maybe up to 6 people at most, because they have to bring in the cargo. So that morning, I could not sleep the whole night. I had everything packed and ready to go. So the next day when I got to the airport, like I said, my heart was still pounding, and I was getting ready to say, bye to my dad, and that I would let him know when I made it out there and everything. And I also let my mom know, and just, wow, it was amazing. And so I get there and I mean, it was just amazing. The experience of flying so low where you can see the entire ground, the tundra, like all over Alaska down to the peninsula. I mean, it was just breathtaking, some of the views and the sights that you could see. And whenever we got to King Salmon and switched planes, it was only about another hour by that little plane to get to the village, which was called Chignik Bay. And so when we arrived, there was a lot of wind, and the entire runway was completely iced over. And so I remember when I was coming in my first time, the plane was just unstable, and when we were actually coming in to land, we were actually coming in a little bit on the side, and when we touched down, we straightened up, and just, that was enough to speed up my heart also. But hey, we made it safely. But as soon as that door opened, whoa, being in Anchorage compared to 550 miles southwest in the middle of the Aleutian Peninsula, when you are surrounded by water, wow, it was freezing. It was probably like -15, possibly -20 when we got there. And so that's how I got pretty much my foot into the door of being a commercial fisherman. Well, when it came to that job, the person, my captain that I was working for, he had no idea how to jig for cod. So we fished for 2 weeks, and we caught 2 fish, 2 cod, that was it. And so, since it was obviously a disaster from the beginning, he just said, well, look, we gave it a shot. I'm quitting. So we go back to the village, which was like an 8-9 hour boat ride. When we get back, we have to, clean, scrub the boat, get it ready to be put up and stored for the rest of the winter until salmon season started. And I did not fish with him that first summer just because I had a different option at the time. And they were basically telling me that if I fished with them, I would be making good money, and that, hard work pays off. And when it came to me, and as hard as I worked, they said that it would really, really show. But wow, they really did me wrong. And when that was all said and done, me working the entire summer without the other deckhand that you're supposed to have on the boat, they only left it up to me. So I was doing the job of 2 people. But after the season was done, the person who I was working for handed me a check for $3,000. And it just, it was just mind-blowing that it was just that low because of all the work and all the fish that we had caught and, sailed. But long story short, when it comes to that person who tried taking advantage of me, come to find out, they took over $2,000 out of that and tried to keep it for themselves. But luckily, the IRS caught on to it, got in touch with me, and asked me if I gave them permission to take that money out of my check, which I didn't. And so the IRS paid me the rest of the money that they took and kept for themselves. Well, either way, let's get back to my story. It was 2009, and I decided to work for the captain who first introduced me to fishing, and I was gonna salmon in that season. And within that first year, my hard work and ethics had paid off so much that basically I was kind of like a go-to guy when it came to a lot of the things around the village. So I had a really good relationship with everybody at first because I was willing to work as hard as possible, and I did not mind lending a hand all day, every day, just trying to help out. And I got so lucky because I got to be I got to be the deck boss that season. And well, basically I was under the captain. I was in charge of maintenance on the boat, getting groceries for the boat, making sure the rest of the crew were there on time, and also just all around, just pretty much the errand run guy. I did everything. Well, when August 14th rolled around, that is a day I'll never forget because that's the day I got the call saying that my best friend had been killed the night before by his own cousin. And at the time, that really messed with me real bad. So I had a lot on my mind for a couple of days. And then on the morning of the 17th, I received another call asking if I would be a pallbearer. And without even having to think, I automatically said yeah. I said I will definitely be there for John, no matter what. I said even if I have to quit and just quit my job and walk away from it, I said I will be there. And then fast forward to 3 hours later, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I finished working on the generator. It was running smoothly, and I could not get in touch with my captain. There were no landlines, only in people's houses that they actually paid for, because somebody from the cable company or the phone company had to fly out to hook up everything. So that was a bit challenging. And then the two-way radio couldn't reach because it was low tide, and there was just too many trees, boats, and docks were in the way. So I did what I had done at least 1,000 times before. I got on my little 250 Honda Recon and headed towards my captain's house. And in this village is nothing but a dirt road, and there was a company doing a lot of blasting on this mountain, trying to build a marina on the other side of the bay. Well, when they get done every day, they were supposed to grade and then pack the road back down and get all the loose gravel off. Well, the company had been noticing that there were more and more boats finishing up and calling it quits for the season. So for around 3 to 4 days in a row, they weren't doing their job. Once they finished, they just went home. They did not clean the roads. They left all the loose gravel there, and I had no idea. Well, on the way to my captain's house, there's basically kind of like a small right curve, and then it straightens out to go across a little one-lane wooden bridge. Well, in the middle of the turn, I was going maybe 17 miles per hour, 18 miles per hour tops, and I hit a patch of loose gravel. And as soon as I hit it, the ATV went out of control, and I started skidding, not towards the bridge, but towards the embankment. So I turned my handles as hard as I could. I was squeezing brakes. I was doing everything I could to try to get it stopped. And even when my tires turned all the way to the right, they basically just skid. And I skid for about 15 yards. And when I stopped, my upper body weight kind of went forward a little bit. And when it did, it was just much to where the ATV's front two tires broke the first few inches of the embankment. And imagine, and all I did, it happened so fast, you don't have time to process it. So all I did was I held on for dear mercy. And being that it was a 25-foot straight drop down, the ATV was basically kind of doing a front flip. And the first spot of impact is this scar on the back of my head. I don't know if anybody can see it, but that's basically what happened. I hit head first, and then basically it just crushed me. So I I tried to jump up like any man, and shake it off, even though I knew I was hurt a little bit. But when I tried to, all I could do was lift my head, barely, and just move my arms. I already knew I was paralyzed. It hit me that fast that I knew I was paralyzed. And the doctors say that they do not understand how I was able to do this, because I actually punctured my left lung due to 4 crushed ribs. But I was able to yell out help 2 times. And the 3rd time I went to yell for help, as soon as I said "Heh," everything just stopped. I couldn't breathe anymore. They were very, very short, shallow breaths. But I was so lucky because somebody actually heard me the first 2 times. So they ran to their sister's house and had their sister's boyfriend run down because they thought that I was being mauled by a grizzly. But I just remember laying there and I felt, a few pebbles and stuff sliding down. And the next thing I know, I hear somebody saying my name. And I told him, I said, look, I was like, there's a rock stuck in my back. I was just like, please pull it out. I was just like, it hurt so bad. And he just kept saying, look, I'm sorry, I can't touch you. He was just like, it was such a serious accident that they really didn't know how to deal with it. So I laid in the creek for close to an hour before they could even find out how to transfer my body to the life board. And then once they did get me on the board, they had to walk almost 100 yards downstream to find a way to get back up to the beach to get me back up to the road. And what's so ironic is the clinic that they took me to, I had just finished building that. I was the very last person to be working there. And the week before, I had just gotten called to see if I would go up and do some maintenance up top. Well, I was like I said, I was the last person to stop working building that clinic. But yet, I was the first person admitted to the ER. And when it comes to maritime law, the rules are, no matter what kind of injury you get, if it's just a cut where it requires stitches, or if you just, sprain your hand or something, you have to report it to the Coast Guard no matter what. That's the first rule. It's on every boat. As soon as you walk in, it's a law. You have to have that plaque there with the rules. Well, nobody called the Coast Guard. They called a medevac plane. And it took the medevac plane 10 hours to make it to me. So basically, I laid on the ER table for over 10 hours in agony, basically kind of blacking out due to trauma, and then white light, just opening my eyes and just knowing I was in a tough position. And in villages like that, they don't have doctors or anything. They didn't have any type of medicines they could give me to help. So, yeah, I was pretty much dying in front of everybody. And when the medevac plane got there, they were able to get me out to the plane. And once I got on the plane, this was like actually the last time that I heard anybody in that village say anything nice to me. And everybody said, we love you, we're thinking about you, and we're here to support you. But as soon as I left that village, that was basically it. Things just, they took things too personal, and I don't know why. So, but either way, what happened to me was my spine was completely severed at T8. Basically, like somebody just took a sword and with a straight cut through my spine, all of my nerves. Then my T11 vertebrae, it hit the rock so hard it shattered that entire vertebrae, and it took small bone fragments all the way up to the beginning of the bottom of my shoulder blades. So they had to do 2 bone fusions. So I have titanium rods in my spine along with 10 3-inch screws. So my mid-back has no flexibility at all. And everything that happened in the accident, my spine was completely severed at T8, shattered at T11, 4 crushed ribs, a collapsed left lung, and that huge gaping hole in the back of my head that was just squirting blood. Well, I'm still here, and I made it, and I'm kind of starting to see why the good Lord left me here, because these videos are, I feel like this is something that I need to do. Even if it doesn't continue to help me, I want it to try to at least help others. But yeah, that's my backstory. That happened on August 17th, 2009. That was the last time I seen the village. The last time I was able to fly on planes that small. And it's been over 10 years now. And slowly throughout the years, my body has just started to deteriorate from the inside out. And there's really nothing I can do about it. I have an appointment with PT next week to start on my shoulders. And hopefully I'm going to end up building quite a bit of upper body strength again, just because of the fact that my shoulders are just almost gone. But yeah, I have a lot of work to do when it comes to catching up on getting these guns in shape. but no, it's like, I just wanted to say I apologize for missing the past few days, just in case there were anybody that happened to be waiting for another video of mine to come out. But I don't know if there is anybody or not, but I'm sorry. I was just in a bad spot. And now, when it comes to like the laws, the state and everything, they're making all the patients, they are tapering all patients who are on pain medication. They are tapering everybody. And so the past few days I have been experiencing withdrawals, and now I have been prescribed promethazine and clonidine to help me with the withdrawal symptoms, and the clonidine is to help with my blood pressure because of the change in medication, because my blood pressure is usually like in 120/80, but the other day it was 161/92, and that was the first time it was that high in quite a while. But yeah, and also I know I keep losing weight, but I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to at all. I have been told by 5 different people now that I have a very low iron, and I just can't get somebody to understand that. So it is very difficult trying to explain that I can't help it, what my body is doing to me. So, you know, sometimes I kind of wish, you know, that I didn't get a second chance, and then more often I'm very thankful that I did get a second chance. But a man can only take so much for so long before they start to realize, no matter what anybody tries telling them, I know that I'm more of a burden. But hey, I'm gonna keep on pushing through with life, because even though I may gain an inch or two, I get knocked back 1 or 2 feet for every inch that I get progress, that I gain ground. I get pushed back, but it doesn't matter, because I'm gonna keep pushing forward until the day I'm going. I'm gonna keep pushing forward with my life, and I'm gonna continue to listen to my heart, and just pray that the people who I thought would be supporting me the most will come around eventually. But let's end this on a good note. Next week, I will be going to have my Botox injections, and I'm going to ask my doctor if it's okay if I do a YouTube video there, because I would like the world to be able to meet the gentleman who has basically cut so many hours of like cathering and just accidental leakage. Like, he has saved me countless hours, and I would love to introduce my urologist to everybody. He is such a great urologist, and I'm so glad he told me about the Botox, because it has helped me so much. So I am looking forward to that because everybody's gonna get to see what's inside me. So I hope my backstory didn't bum y'all out, and you know, it happens to the best of us. It happens to anybody. You know, it doesn't matter how much experience you have on everything. Accidents can always happen in the blink of an eye, and that's what happened to me. But I'm still here, and I'm still going to keep pushing forward. So, to all of you beautiful people out there, this is Adam Jen, your Super Para, also known as the Para Prince. And just remember, if you don't hear it from somebody else today, you heard it from me. I love each and every one of y'all. See you in my next video.